Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Chuggaaconroy and Ted Wiesen to reflect on the Pokémon Sword and Shield reveal trailer, specifically to talk about the things we found in our analysis. So let's get started. And before we really get into it, I thought we'd sort of reflect on what you guys felt about the reveal of Sword and Shield in the first place, because I don't believe we had you on. I think, Emil, we had you on to talk about what your hopes were for Gen 8, but not your reaction. So what is your reaction to Sword and Shield?
Okay, no, I won't sing for you. No, I thought it was very exciting. It was more ambitious than I thought it would be. I like the presentation. I think it's a good mix of old style and new style. I think it could be something very interesting. I wasn't expecting them to, have long sweeping landscapes in front of you and really play with that.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ted?
So I walked into the Direct with the lowest possible expectations in terms of what we were going to see. Like, not that I expected the game to look bad, just that I wasn't expecting to even see the game at all. Because that Pokemon Sun and Moon reveal trailer kind of hit me hard, where it's just like, here's a title, and it's like, what else? Nope, you just get a title. So I was expecting like a 10-minute live action thing, where everybody's playing Pokemon, and then we'd see the titles, and that's it. And then we actually got a really cool looking trailer where we got a look at some new Pokemon, a look at how the battle system would look, a good view of the world, and just a lot of really cool details. And so I was very pleasantly surprised by what they showed off. And as for, what everything looks in the game itself, I really like the way that the game is looking so far. It's, to me, the first time a Pokemon game has really felt big, if that makes sense, and I think that that's something that the games have needed for a little while now. So I'm really excited to explore the world, which I haven't been, I think. Like, not that I liked Sun and Moon a lot, but the areas in that game felt very small. And so I'm glad that this is going to feel like a Pokemon world to adventure in and stuff like that.
I'm glad you brought up the Sun and Moon reveal, because that reveal was so terrible, especially because those logos leaked a day early, so we already knew that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so the only thing they showed was something we already knew. It just was confirming it.
I still had to analyze concept art that they showed off during that trailer, so I was still working, but this one kept me a little busier. But, actually, let's talk about that world first, because you're right, Ted. It does seem bigger, and that's something to appreciate. And one of the things I focused on in the map analysis was that space between the train stop from the first town to the steampunk city that you first see. There's that big open area with two lakes, and I can see it going one of two ways. Either that's a straight shot with no ways to go on the side, or all of a sudden, hey, here is this big open section that you can run around in and explore. And boy, I'm hoping it's going to be the latter.
What I think they could do with this, and I think that the area around the first farmy town that you showed off supports this. I don't think it'll be like Breath of the Wild, where you can walk anywhere and climb on everything, and there's absolutely no limits to where you can move, but I think that we'll get a lot of areas that are big, giant open fields that you can move about any way that you want. Kind of like how, I guess this is very wishful thinking though, but think like Gormod in Xenoblade 2, where yes, technically the progression is linear, but there's many ways you can go and it's very open. I could see it being technically a linear game, but having very large fields in it like that.
Emil basically just took the words right out of my mouth, because the Pokemon games, I'd say, from Gen 5 onwards have been relatively linear in terms of progression. Like, you can't really go to towns in whatever order you want in the same way you could in the first handful of games. But I think the way that the map looks, that there's definitely going to be more to do in each individual area. So I basically agree. I think that, in terms of town to town and like story beats, it'll be linear, but the areas that you go along to among that individual paths seem designed for more exploration within that level. So I think that's a good compromise between that.
With more exploration, I also just realized that that would also explain if it's not just placeholder footage, that would kind of solve the mystery of Tyranitar being able to be held by a gym master. If you have a lot more to do and see in every area, and it's just a lot bigger and more explorable, you would be reaching higher levels before the end of the game.
Theoretically, yes. That is, I mean, it's not like Pokemon hasn't pulled one of these things before where they have a evolution that shouldn't really be possible.
Oh yeah, Lance with his 3 level 40 Dragonites, like that.
Exactly. So they could pull something like that, but we're going to follow the rules for now and see what it's like. But I do like the idea of it sort of playing with the levels, maybe making them a little higher, maybe making there be more things to do. And even having some non-linear elements, like the way that the 3 first cities look after, so the Steampunk City, and then the Water City, and then the Ancient Ruin City that we saw that had the Grass Stadium, or Grass Gym, in it. I feel like you can really choose to do any of those gyms in any order, which we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, the last game I think that really let you do that was like Gen 2, actually, I think is the last game that let you do a gym out of order.
No, in Gen 3 you were allowed to skip Brawley and come back to him later. You could actually do
that's right.
Brawley and Watson could be done in any order. I think Flannery as well.
Okay, yeah.
Even though the region was more linear. And then in Platinum you could do Maylene and Wake in any order.
Okay, yeah, so, alright, my bad.
Mm-hmm. Still, it's not something that's been done a lot, especially since Gen 5, and that was very much a point. I love Gen 5, but that is a point-to-point traversal.
Yes, there's no out of order there.
Yeah, I think what you were talking about with higher levels too might solve a different problem that I know a lot of people have been complaining about, is that Pokemon, a lot of people have been saying that the new games are too easy. Now, like, Pokemon's never really been hard, per se. Like, even way back, it's always been a pretty simple game. But I think that this game, especially considering that Let's Go was designed for a much more casual audience, I think people are kind of expecting and wanting this one to maybe be a little bit tougher. And if the levels really are a little bit higher, I think that actually might make a lot of people happy, because I know that there have been a lot of people who've been saying, we want this game to be tougher, we want to be challenged. And, I think that actually would be pretty cool to see, a Pokemon game that actually is pretty tough, because really the only one that I can think of that's even sort of hard is like Gen 4 and like Gen 1 sort of. It can be kind of tough at certain points, but other than that, most of the games are pretty easy, and that's not a problem for me personally, but I know that that's something that people have been wanting, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
I straight up do not agree that recent games have been getting too easy.
Yeah.
Let's Go is definitely designed to be simpler, I'll give you that one, but I don't think Gen 1 is remotely difficult.
Oh, no, I don't either. I just think it's a little bit harder than some of the other ones.
Gen 1 has terrible AI that constantly makes bad decisions. The game's mechanics are rigged in your favor, where your opponent has lower accuracy than you on their status moves. There's a lot of really questionable choices where a lot of Pokemon just have moves of one type and can be walled if you have the correct type, which that would never happen in a later game. I attribute Gen 1 people thinking that it was difficult to you were a kid and you sucked at games.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that's the only way I see it as hard, though, because even Fire Red and Leaf Green I wouldn't really say is that tough playing it now. Gold and Silver had some level spikes toward the end, but other than that, wasn't too bad except for a few fights. I'd say Azalea Rival was definitely tough in that game. When I think hard Pokemon games, as someone who's played them a lot, the ones that come to mind are Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, if only because of the insane level spikes toward the end of the game, Sun and Moon, and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I would consider those the 4 hardest Pokemon games.
I'd give you Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but because like that Necrozma fight is ridiculous. But
yeah,
like regular Sun and Moon, one of the big things is that the majority of the regular fights are against like standard trainers and stuff. Most trainers only have like one Pokemon in that game. Like maybe by the time you get to some of the later dungeons, like some Team Skull people might have like 2. Like most of the boss fights, like Guzma only has 3 Pokemon the first time you fight him. I think he might only have like 4 during the second time you fight him. It's been a while, but so most of the standard fights, I think, tend to be breezed past pretty quickly.
You are definitely right about the trainers now that you say that, but when I think hard fights in that game, I'm thinking more of the totem Pokemon and the trials.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I feel like on the second island, almost no matter what team you chose to go with on your first time, at least one of those trials is going to give you a lot of trouble, be it the Lurantis, the Wishy-Washy, or the Salazzle.
Yeah, that's true. They can definitely be a little tricky. And I remember the first time I fought Guzman and encountered his Galissopod for the first time, and I beat him, but he was definitely killing me a lot more than I thought he would. It's like, geez, what is this Pokemon, and why is it kicking my butt so much?
If you've never seen First Impression before, it's nasty.
Yeah, exactly. It wiped me out, and I managed to beat him, but boy, it caught me off guard. And I can see those spikes, and I think as long as we have those spikes here in Sword and Shield as well, and hopefully fixing the issue that Ted has, where the regular trainers have more than one Pokemon, at least, you know, have the effect of having more to face off against and keep things interesting. Maybe less trainers, more Pokemon per trainer might be a good solution for that. I'm not sure. Especially with the wide open fields, maybe you don't have to fight everybody, but you can hunt them down, and the ones that you do find will be a little tougher.
The elite trainers that you fought in every route in Alola, I think, could be kind of cool. They reappeared in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, so I'm hoping that like having maybe like one or two tough trainers on a route that you have to hunt down and earn the right to fight could be a cool idea that is here to stay.
I think that would also work if they really are trying to make the game more exploration focused as well, because if it's like Sun and Moon where you have to fight all of the trainers, and you know, in that game it's not too hard to find all of them because the routes in that game are mostly a straight line, but you know, if you actually have to hunt through the field and try to actually find all of the trainers in order to fight the elite trainer and like get a TM or some other special item, you know, then I think that would be a really good way to incentivize people actually looking around the area, because there are definitely going to be people who see a wide open field and be like, nah, and then just run towards the town and ignore half the stuff in there anyway. So it'd be a good little incentive to get people to actually see all that the game has to offer as well.
Agreed. So, yeah, we'll have to see how it all comes across, because they didn't have any of the UI up, so we didn't get to see any of the levels or how tricky things might be. But what do you guys think of the Galar region overall?
I really like the way it looks. I think part of why I like it is that it's very different from everything we've seen so far. Like, the closest I can think of that it might look visually to is kind of Sinnoh from Gen 4, but even then, that's mostly just because of the mountains and stuff. In terms of the architecture, it's completely different. And of course, the graphical upgrade, you know, helps a lot in making the world seem initially appealing. But I just, you know, I'm a sucker for European architecture as well. That's a style that that really digs with me. And it's also kind of an area that Pokemon hasn't really tried to do too much before. Like, we've seen their takes on Japanese kinds of areas, we've seen their take on American types of areas and tropical types of areas, but not so much, you know, stuff with a classical Western sort of style. And I think it's, you know, it's interesting. I think that from what we saw in the little preview where they were showing off the Pokemon battle system in that trailer, I think that we're probably going to see a regional dex that has some Pokemon that aren't, you know, that haven't been seen in a while. Stuff like Minccino being the first Pokemon you see aside from Pikachu. Like let me think that, oh, that's a Gen 5 Pokemon that we haven't seen in a really long time. And I think that excites me because the area looks different, and it lends itself to maybe, you know, not seeing the same, oh, here's Machop, here's Geodude, you know, here's Magikarp kind of stuff that we've seen over and over again since, you know, like 2001 or whatever. Even
Pikachu manages to be kind of a new interesting thing if it's in the first area, because that hasn't happened in a very long time. We had Pichu at the beginning of Alola. I don't think Pikachu was available. No, never mind. Actually, the last time was in the Santaloon Forest in X and Y. But since then, it was not even obtainable in Unova at all, so it's been a while since Pikachu's been at the beginning of a game.
Yeah, I think you might have technically been able to catch Pikachu if you did, like, SOS stuff, but at the beginning of the game, you're not going to know how to do that anyway. So you're probably just going to stick with Pichu anyhow.
I'm all for Minccino being available early on.
Oh, yeah, that's so cute, right? Like, oh, man, I love... Gen 5 has a severely underrated dex. in my opinion. So
on that note, I'd love it if more Kalos Pokemon were in the regional Pokedex, because the Kalos Pokemon are some of the most underutilized characters of them all, because almost none of them were in the Alola Dex.
That's a shame, too, because I did like a lot of those Pokemon designs, and come on, Honedge and Aegislash and all them need to be in this game.
No, dude, the
Seriously.
first thing I thought when I saw that logo was just like, okay, we already have that Pokemon. All right, step it up.
Your two versions are Pokemon Aegislash and Pokemon Aegislash.
Yeah, perfect.
But yeah, you're right in that, there are some people who have some nostalgia for Gen 6 now, because, like, again, I can understand not wanting to use so many Pokemon from the immediate game before it in Gen 7, but Pokemon, X and Y came out, like, what, 6 years ago now? Like
2013, I think.
2013, yeah, so it'll be 6 years by the time the game comes out. So, it's been a long time since we've seen any of them in a standard playthrough, like you said. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, there'd be some good stuff in here. And again, with the European architecture, the potential link between Galar and Kalos, we don't know that for sure yet, but it's entirely possible just because of France and the UK. But
they have never gotten along in history.
Exactly. So what's really cool about this, and is something Ted mentioned, is that I love the city designs in the Galar region. You got the steampunk one, you got this interesting snow city, you got a fortress city, you got a city built into the side of a mountain, you got a Grimm's fairy tale town in there, and then you got one of the coolest cities I think they've ever designed with the whole London-based one. There's some really interesting locations to visit this time around.
They're all very distinct and very beautiful. I think they've gone all in on the theming this time around, where they've taken some liberties here and there, but they've also had the big landmarks in there as well. I'm also happy that their definition of a UK region isn't just Big Ben smack dab in the middle of it and that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of worried about when people were saying that they wanted that. I'm like, I hope they don't just base it on London, and because Uneva's just, Uneva's the American region, but it's just based on New York City and not really much else.
Yeah, I also kind of felt that with Kalos to some extent as well, because Lumiose, that was definitely Paris, but I didn't really get a France vibe from the rest of the region.
It's just the Eiffel Tower. It's not even like the Champs-Élysées or anything. Like it doesn't have a lot of the Arc de Triomphe or any other.
Yeah,
landmarks.
a lot of the I was going to say Notre Dame, but I don't think they'd put an actual church in Pokemon. So
I mean, they did in Platinum.
That is true.
Okay, point granted.
Platinum actually goes into the theology of the world a lot.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know if they want to have like a church where people are actually worshiping Arceus or something. That'd be weird. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so I do like that they're pulling multiple things from Europe. I think there was the guy on the hill that I forget the name of it, that they pulled for this one.
Oh yeah,
Big Ben.
His name too,
do they have? I do not remember because it's been a while. Did they have some sort of Stonehenge equivalent in the map? Okay, yeah. So they're pulling a lot of stuff from UK, Scotland in general. So it definitely feels much more like a full picture of the area, as opposed to okay, here's New York and New Jersey, just those ones.
And I like how fans have really been taking off with the idea of the trainers being Scottish. There's too many good things.
That's really good.
For sure.
The girl is so much better looking than the boy.
That's always the case.
It's so commonly the case. I saw a tweet the other day that was somebody saying that the boy Pokemon trainers peaked around Gen 4 or something, and then a guy quoted that and said, "Come on, you cannot look at Lucas and tell me that guy does not get his lunch money stolen every day. They have been terrible for a lot longer."
Yeah. Gen 5 is fine, but
Gen 5 is good, except he's named Hilbert.
Yeah, exactly.
This is why I go with the manga names, personally. Because as dumb as a name of, Black 2 is, anything's better than Hilbert.
Yeah.
I don't think I've liked a boy trainer design since Gen 2, honestly. And that's going pretty far back.
Gen 2's good. Brendan's kind of weird, especially
Brendan would be okay without the hat.
In Oros, he has a giant head on a stick body, and I don't know why they went with that.
Yeah.
Lucas is all right. Hilbert's cool, except for his name. Nate is like a living mop. I don't know. But yeah, the girl's a lot better.
The girls always. It's not even so much that a lot of the boys are bad. It's just that the girls are always way better. Mm-hmm. So. Nobody ever wants to go with the boy design. I just hope that, I hope the customization seems to be back in terms of the different clothes and things like that.
No, actually, I saw no evidence of customization.
Oh,
it's likely.
you didn't?
Yeah, the only time we see them change clothes is for the gyms.
Okay.
If it's in Let's Go, it's probably back.
It's probably back, though. It's going to happen. There's no way it's not going to be here.
I'm just hoping that it's not a X and Y and Sun and Moon situation where the girls literally have like 3 times the clothes.
Oh, you know it will be.
But I'd really rather it not, Like,
yeah.
Because there's lots of cool, like, especially if they're going, like, historical, like, and pulling from European history, there's so much cool outfits for the men. Like, if you look up Renaissance paintings and, old European history type stuff, the men in the Renaissance were fabulous and had amazing outfits. So they could pull from some of that stuff, and it would be great.
I think it'd be cool if you could dress up as past trainers.
Why haven't they done that yet?
I have no idea. it's really
if we're talking about past trainers, can I just tangent for a second to say that the lass is totally just Serena? Like, it's literally Serena. You can say her face is different from her anime appearance, but no, it's the same face as her game artwork. The lass is just Serena.
Why not? Serena's popular. But yeah, I want to go into one of my theories that I came up with and how crazy I am. I want to see if you guys buy into my theory at all, talking about these opening towns. Because I came up with the idea because there's these 2 strange purple buildings that either one could be the lab, the professor's lab this time around. And I came up with the idea that maybe there's 2 professors this time around. Do you guys think that's possible, or am I crazy?
I think it's very possible. We have had 2 professors before in the past. We had both Arya and Cedric Juniper in Black and White, where one of them was studying the Pokemon of the Unova region, and the other was more broad, studying the National Dex. And then in Gen 7, we also had the 2 Professor Kukuis, where one was studying Pokemon moves and the other was studying Ultra Space. So it's not totally impossible, especially if there is a new mechanic in this game, like we've been talking. I know you said you thought it was Pokemon Fusion in a previous video as just conjecture, but we could have one person studying one thing and another studying another. It's happened in the past.
I mean, it's certainly possible. I guess what I'm just wondering is, are they going to make them both important? I guess is the thing, because in Black and White 1, she was the important one, the one that you talk to for the most part. Cedric, he popped up every now and again for some backstory and, some flavor, but he didn't do much.
His main thing was knowing about Dragon Spiral Tower, I think, but he didn't have a lot of plot relevancy outside of that.
Yeah. And, this is less so in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but Kukui, he was around a lot, and, his wife was there in a lot of cutscenes, but aside from the Ultra Space wormhole opening up, she also didn't do much other than explain what Ultra Space was. And she kind of disappeared as well. So I'd like it if they were both present throughout and maybe gave a little bit of edge, like maybe they have a competitive streak with them, like they're friendly rivals or not so friendly rivals. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that might be neat. Again, that's just total conjecture on my end, but it would be cool to see them do something with having more than one instead of them just both existing.
That's sort of what I was going along the idea, because I do realize there has been multiple professors in the past, but I'm talking right at the beginning, they're both there to help and whatnot, so going from that idea, and it's really possible for one to be focusing on attacks while the other one focuses on defense, thanks to the Sword and Shield moniker, but it's hard to say which way they'll go, especially because the symbol we have in the Japanese logos this time around is actually the symbol that's on the gyms, so who knows what that's all about.
So I just got an idea based on what you were talking about, and it was if they are, based on one's on attack and one's on defense, it would be interesting if they did something where depending on the version of the game you got, you encounter one or the other first. Like you encounter the attack one first if you pick sword and vice versa if you pick shield. Like that would be neat. They've done stuff like that before, so, it would be interesting for them to change the content of the game a little bit more for the 2 versions, because usually it's very, very minor which version you're going to pick, so that'd be a nice way to change it up.
The more relevant professor would be interesting, yeah.
Yeah. I'd like that. That'd be really cool. And if they did a third version, they could just have both show up, like alternate, kind of like Team Aqua and Team Magma. There's a lot of potential there, and I'd love to see them attempt it and do it, but it's hard to say. Unfortunately, no information about the rival yet. I'm pretty sure we see his house, and it seems like a nice house. He even has his own, like, trainer arena or battle arena, so that's something.
Do you think we get the jerkbag rival back, or no?
I hope.
Like, I'm assuming no until proven otherwise, but...
Yeah.
You know. Not that that's necessarily bad, because I actually liked the rival in Let's Go a lot more than I thought I would. Because, you know, I thought that it was going to be about as basic as they get, but they actually changed the story in a couple of interesting ways. Like, with the Cubone and stuff for Let's Go. So I ended up liking him more than I thought, but I know a lot of people will really want that rival to be just... you know, a giant jerk. You know, that's what a lot of people have been wanting for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just assume that they're gonna go with the more friendly one, just because that's what they've done for so many games now. But I just want to know if any of you guys thought it was possible.
I think this is our best chance. It probably won't be, because they could go for the really basic rich versus poor dynamic. It's probably not going to happen. But you're right, I did actually enjoy Trace more than I thought he would, because you can sort of see the frustration in him. And desperation to actually beat you, which was, you know, fun to see in that aspect. But otherwise, we're gonna get maybe not a completely nice rival, but definitely a more friendly one than people want.
You brought up the rich versus poor thing. Like, that's a pretty classic British kind of thing. Like, Charles Dickens immediately came to mind when you mentioned that. So, like, that could work for a non-friendly rival if they did go with it. You know?
I don't think that a rival needs to be a jerk in order to be good. I think that Barry was, for instance, just antagonizing enough, though, but was still friendly towards you. And I'm with you on liking Trace more than I expected to. The only thing that I don't like is the reasoning they've given for it in interviews. They've said that the reason why they made rivals really big jerks in the past was because with the graphical limitations, they had to give them very outlandish personalities to make them more memorable. But now that we have higher graphical fidelity, they feel like they can stand on their own merits in other ways. And I don't feel like that has to equate to everyone being friendly.
Yeah. And it was absolutely at its worst in X and Y. Like,
there were 5 rivals in that game, and I don't remember a single one's name, so...
Yeah.
X and Y in general just had a lot of human characters that didn't really do anything, just because it was such a large cast.
It's a bit of a shame, but maybe they'll improve. I mean, I think they've been doing a decent job on the stories lately, at least every so often. Like, we got a really good story with Gen 5, got a really good story with Gen 7. Hopefully it doesn't skip one again with Kalos, like we did with Kalos, but hopefully we'll get a fun story to it. But let's actually talk about the gyms this time around, because, yeah, as Nintendo tweeted it out, Nintendo of America tweeted this out and quickly deleted it because apparently they revealed it way too soon. But it looks like we have gym masters this time around, not leaders. And they got these huge stadiums that people were fighting in, and you actually change your clothes and don't sort of soccer uniform, and it's the big thing about Sword and Shield, it seems, again based on the Japanese logo. What the heck are you guys expecting from these?
We had talked about in the previous discussion that maybe we could have something akin to how the Orange Islands work in the anime, where you have to complete some kind of challenge in order to face the leader in a Pokemon battle. And with it having kind of a sporty appearance, I think there's a lot of potential for different minigames you could end up playing, or various other challenges that aren't strictly just fighting that could make them more memorable. And I'd still like to see that a lot. I have my own theory that I've come up with after looking at the map and watching your analysis of it, Derek.
Mm-hmm.
So, you pointed out that there's 8 structures that could be gyms, but we have the center structure that's the inside the walled city that looks like a dragon. That doesn't have the logo on it. I know that if that's not a gym, that lowers the number of confirmed gyms to 7, and that's, flimsy at best.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that on that structure, there is a circular platform inside of that hollowed out crown on top of the castle. There's no way some important fight doesn't happen in there. There has to be something big that happens in that area.
Right.
It is smaller than the battle arenas visible outside, but the map is extremely not to scale, as you pointed out, where it's very inconsistent with how big everything is. It rings a bell in my mind for Sun and Moon's final boss fight, similar to where that took place. And if that is where the League is held, it's been a very long time since we visited the League before the end of the game, and seen what it was we had to shoot for.
That, I like the potential of that.
Has there even been anything like that since, like, the first... Because I know in the original, you can kind of go and see where the route to the League was at the very beginning. There was Gen 1, but I don't remember anything other than that off the top of my head.
There's the badge check gates in Gen 1. Sinnoh has the binoculars you can see the League through Sunny Shore City before you go there. And then Sun and Moon had the cutscene where Kukui shows you the construction site off in the distance, but that's been it.
Yeah.
Being able to actually go near it has not been a thing, and it looks like there's a city around it, so it would also give its placement in the world a lot more purpose.
Yeah, it does come across as a seat of power.
It definitely does evoke that, and the dragon head and dragon wings on the castle doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a dragon arena. It could just be a relevant location to the country's history.
I mean, that's entirely possible.
I'm aware that it has its holes in it, like I said, but I think that that's an interesting idea, at least, and that I would like to see a Pokemon League that has more... maybe exists in a pre-established city and has more of a place in the world, and maybe you visit early on and you see physically before you something overwhelming that is your goal.
I think it also fits world-building wise too, because if these gym battles are like, big sporting events, then, like the League would then be like the World Cup of Pokemon fights in that sort of sense. And, if it's like a spectator sport, it wouldn't really make much sense for the League to be in the middle of nowhere like it is in most of the regions,
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would be a tourist destination and something that people are excited to go to. So I think it makes sense in that kind of way as well.
It has to be either the Crown Tower or the massive tower in London. One of those two, I think, because there's again, two spaces on the top of both of them that just opens up and leaves that possibility open. And you're right, we have not seen that gym symbol on there, but we haven't actually seen the city itself yet. And I would have never realized that that tower in the Steampunk City was a gym without seeing that symbol, just looking at it on the map. So I think we need to actually see these cities before we can say one way or the other. But I just love that idea of having this, like, okay, here's the goal. Here's what you got to do. I'd even love if there was a battle against maybe an Elite Four member and they just wipe the floor with you just to show the gap. And
they kind of did that where you saw Lorelei fight Team Rocket in Let's Go, and I'd love to see something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It would be cool, especially if they gave the Elite Four some presence outside of the last bit of the game, because they've occasionally tried to do stuff like that, but the Elite Four has always felt very separate from everything else. And it'd be really cool to see, like, these actually are the strongest people in the world and have them exist outside of their own little segregated part of the map.
For all the crap that I give X and Y's human cast, Mava was definitely the closest I think they've come to that.
Yeah, that was a nice twist to see her have more of a role that way, and fun things to do with that. So I hope they do more, because usually they put all the focus on the gym leaders, and that's great and all. I loved to see the gym leaders do more as the games have gone on, but let's give some love to the Elite Four as well and see what they can do here. And this might be our game where we actually get that, if your idea is correct.
I feel like we're just saying, this would be cool, that'd be cool, oh, that's cool.
I mean, we're still only in the first trailer. We've seen in map-wise the first town and maybe the second two towns.
There's so much room for hope.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't dashed it yet.
Gosh, you're talking like this is a Sonic game or something.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm expecting good things. Like, I have
me too.
a really good feeling from Sword and Shield, from everything I've seen, doing the analysis, seeing all this stuff, like the potential for these gyms and how they're more traditional, but definitely different. It leaves me excited. And I did note how you couldn't see your trainer behind Lucario this time around. So I brought up the idea of maybe it being more strategy-based, kind of like Pokemon Conquest. So I don't know if it'd go full that way, but maybe managing multiple battles at the same time, since we have done like double and triple battles before, so it's not too far off the realm of possibility.
If there were multiple fights going on at the same time where it wasn't really a triple battle, but 3 separate one-on-ones going on and you having to come out on top, that would be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, like you could choose to like have, let's say, okay, it's a 3v3 battle, and they're all fighting separately one-on-one. However, you can only make 3 moves. So you can choose to have your one Pokemon hit 3 times in a row in order to take out that one, but guess what? Your other 2 aren't fighting at all.
It'd be kind of a hybrid of rotation and triple battles.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Rotation battles got taken out way too quickly.
Rotations and triples were taken out after Gen 6. They were only around for 2... No, rotations were only 1 game, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like one of the coolest ideas that they'd had in a Pokemon game, and I miss them. I like the ideas that you're throwing out, and I would prefer a gym encounter like that, where the fighting feels different because I liked the trials in Sun and Moon, but a lot of them kind of felt very similar, other than, they had some interesting bits, they were funny, which was one thing I appreciated. I appreciated the humor of the trials in Gen 7, but for the most part, in terms of the fights, they were pretty standard. You fought 2 normal Pokemon, and then you fought the totem Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think making the gym battle feel different gameplay wise than the standard fights that you do throughout the game would be a cool way to give those areas a sense of scale that I think maybe has been lost as we've been doing this, as we've been going through this structure over and over. I know that a lot of people for a long time said that, every Pokemon game is the same, and I appreciated in Gen 7 that they were trying to shake up the general formula, but I think that they could do more with that, and the ideas you guys are throwing out would make the gym leaders feel much more like a true test of strength, as opposed to just a fight against a slightly stronger than normal guy, which would be cool, for me at least.
No, agreed. I think that's what we all want. I want to see this challenge that we have to overcome, that we slowly get better and get towards. I mean, other RPGs do this all the time, where there's the wall, that's what you have to overcome, and you can slowly see yourself getting closer to that wall. And so maybe to have not necessarily your rival, but some other character that you do challenge and actually lose to throughout the game. I think that would be interesting, but each time you get a little bit closer.
Even if you don't lose to them, I think what made Silver and Blue such compelling rivals for people to overcome was the fact that even when you did beat them, to them it was just a fluke. To them, you got lucky. To them, I picked the wrong Pokemon.
Well, one thing that I also liked about at least with Gen 1, there were fights that you could lose and the game would still go on. Like the first fight, for example, you could lose that fight and then, the game would just continue. And I believe the optional second fight with Blue, you might have been able to lose. It's been a long time.
Yeah, in Yellow, actually, what he evolves his Eevee into is based on how many rival fights you have won and lost out of the initial 2.
Okay, yeah, so you could lose those fights. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think that, that's part of it, is that they also were ahead of you the entire time. If you looked on the gym statues, it's just Blue has already beaten this gym, Silver has already beaten this gym, I'm already all the way through Team Rocket's base, and I'm not going to help you because I've got better things to do, smell you later. It's part of what made them more interesting and more present, was the fact that they were around more and seemed like they were doing more things, whereas my least favorite rival in the series is probably the Gen 3 one, because they show up 3 times and they don't do anything, They
didn't feel like a rival.
Yeah, they were just hey. And again, that doesn't make them a bad character because they were friendly. They were a bad character to me because they were irrelevant to everything that was going on, as well as being uninteresting.
Yeah. I could definitely see that perspective, because, like I said, Barry was, he was pretty nice to you. He was impatient, but I would say that he still counts as a friendly rival, but was still antagonistic in other ways. So he's an example of why I don't think friendly equals bad, but I'm with you on uninteresting definitely equals bad. Whenever they don't leave an impression, I'm weird where I think I'd rather play something that's actively bad as opposed to uninteresting. I don't know. That's a weird topic for another day, though. But it shows kind of what I mean.
Yeah, I get you. I totally get you. You want some sort of impression on you, whether good or bad, rather than just oh yeah, I did do that, or I did see that. Well, is there any other elements of Sword and Shield that you guys want to talk about?
I definitely had some. A wild prediction that I'm going to go with that is based on nothing is that due to all the crop circles and mysteries like Stonehenge being depicted in this world, I'm going to say that we're going to get more stuff on extraterrestrials in this world, because there are Pokemon that are stated to be aliens, but we never really hear much about them. Clefairy and Deoxys, for instance, are stated to be aliens. I think Solrock and Lunatone are as well. And yet,
the Ultra Beasts, too, well, they're technically other dimensions.
They're from parallel universes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that we're going to get more information or some focus on aliens in this.
Okay, I'm gonna get my Pokemon tinfoil hat, out there right now. Like, I think that would be really cool. Like, if you had some sort of Pokemon conspiracy theorist wandering around, like, that would be really funny.
There's our rival team.
I mean, it'd be kind of cool if they use Pokemon that they're themed together instead of a type is whichever Pokemon are stated to be aliens in the Pokedex.
That would be cool too, because it would also mean more variety with the enemy team. Because it is very tiring when the enemy team just has, like, all poison types and things like that.
Team Aqua and Magma used literally 3 families throughout the entire game.
Ugh.
On the note of the Stonehenge and crop circles and all that, I'm going to say the depicted legendary Pokemon, Derek was saying that it looked like it was breathing fire and thunder. Or fire and lightning. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that it creates thunderstorms and clouds.
Ooh.
That it looks like it was breathing out a cloud that had lightning bolts hurting the people underneath.
That's entirely possible as well, yeah. That thought didn't occur to me, because it looked like the traditional fire breath depiction, but you're right, it easily could be just forming clouds that send down lightning, and I'm down for that.
So, the one thing I was wondering about in terms of the game is how big do you think the new Pokedex is going to be? Because we're at, 860 Pokemon right now, not counting alternate forms and stuff like that. So we're getting very close to Pokemon number 1000, and I think that they might want to reach that number in this game. Do you think we get that many in this one, or do you think that they make it one of the smaller dexes and maybe it ends at 950 or something?
I thought we were only at 813 or something like that.
We're absolutely not getting 1,000 in this game. It would have to be the most new Pokemon ever introduced at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then I misremember. There's a lot of Pokemon to remember. Then I thought we were higher than we were, but I kind of feel like they would make the number 1,000 Pokemon special in sort of a way. I feel like it would be weird if they ended a generation with 1,036 new Pokemon or something like that whenever we got to Gen 9 in 2025 or whenever that ends up being, So that was just my kind of thinking. But how many new Pokemon versus returning Pokemon do you guys expect for this one?
I'm going to say probably around 70 or 80 new Pokemon.
That would be pretty small, though. I think the lowest new Pokemon is Gen 2 with 100.
No, we've had 70 in Gen 6.
Oh, in Gen 6? Okay.
Gen 7 was also similar, where it was a little more, but it was also around 70.
Gen 7 also had and Gen 6 for that matter, also tried to make up for that with alternate forms of old Pokemon.
I mean, who's to say we won't get alternate forms of something or other in this one? It just doesn't seem to be the main mechanic, which, to be fair, Alolan forms weren't the logo in Alola either.
That's true.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm wanting to say that X and Y was the smallest because on launch, we didn't know about Diancie, Volcanion, or Hoopa, and that meant that our total was actually 69.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew that would get laughter, but I was just saying we didn't have hacks ruining the entire Pokedex and posting it online 1 second after the game was released.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it took a month.
Yeah, it took about a month for people to find out. I guess if there's other small crazy predictions that I could make, it'd be a crime if Scorbunny didn't have Blaze Kick, and that'd be a way for it to use its feet without being a fighting type for those that are worried about that.
You know what? I'm thinking they're going to bring back the firefighting, and everybody's going to hate it. But that's just me being cynical, but
It's possible.
It has the anime sports tape, the martial arts jock sports tape on its nose. It's going to be a fighting type. There's no way to me that it's not.
It could
unless
be.
If it actually does end up being not, in which case, I'll be happy to be wrong in this instance, but
it could be. I'm just holding out hope that maybe it won't be. I have it written down that I'm going to say that to go in the UK theming, there's going to be some gym leader that has a magical theme as a reference to Harry Potter.
We might get that. I did see a place that kind of looked like a traditional British school, so in that.
If that's
clearly Hogwarts.
Clearly Hogwarts.
If that's the case, then we also need one that's a super spy for James Bond.
Oh,
That'd be pretty cool. I'd be totally down with that. Yeah, I can totally see Score Bunny being firefighting again. And it wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't, like, we only had 3 starters be firefighting.
The problem was that
they
it
were
was
in a
3
row.
in a row.
Yeah.
Technically 4 in a row because Black 2 and White 2 had the same starters twice.
Oh, right. Well, I'm not going to count that. But yeah, you're right. So it wouldn't be too strange to have it go back to firefighting. But I'm also trying to think of that tape across the nose, what else it could be, and I cannot think of anything else. We might get Fire Dark again. Who knows, but I kind of doubt it.
The bandage is made of paper. It's fire grass.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
You know what? I want types like that because I don't think we have a fire grass type, and like there are a lot of type combos that have not been used at all. And, or ones that are, like, exclusive to only one Pokemon.
We only technically have a fire-electric Pokemon, thanks to Rotom.
Yeah, so, like, there are... And, I mean, I know that some of them wouldn't really make an awful lot of sense. Like, Fire-Ice, it would be, like, the Kirby 64 Burning Ice Cube, or something like that. But just making a Pokemon like that work, I think, would be interesting enough on its own merits to try it.
Nothing's impossible. We have a Fire-Water.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just, I would like to see strange types. Like, I'd like to see Fairy Dragon, or Poison Steel, or, like the mismatched types I always think is really cool, so...
Oh, of course.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
New type combinations and new abilities are one of the things I look forward to the most, other than the new Pokemon themselves.
Yeah, and I'd say we're due for a new Eevee evolution.
Oh, it's a... even numbered gen, so
yep.
If we go by the pattern, then
an EV numbered gen.
They did it on purpose. Damn them. Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I guess the last special type we need from the original set is Dragon. So theoretically, it should be a Dragon type.
Dragion.
Yeah, I'll be down.
I have a friend who one time said that there should totally be a poison type Eevee called Scorpion.
Oh.
It writes itself.
That's pretty good.
I mean, Kecleon is just the weirdest evolution. Like, it's just normal type like the original, but it's like Chameleon now, which is weird.
I don't know, Volcanion feels like too big of a stretch from what Eevee was.
Yeah. I hope we actually get some new evolutions for past Pokemon.
They haven't done that in a while, so that would be really cool. I know a lot of people want new Megas. I don't feel like that is super likely. I think it would be neat, I guess. I'm not a huge fan of many of the Mega Evolution designs personally, but that's a subjective sort of thing. It would be neat for them to try that again and maybe do more to give the Megas to Pokemon that actually need it versus Pokemons that will sell the most merch, So
I would love some love for my boy Farfetch'd. Nothing's been
Mega
done.
Mega Dunsparce, make it happen.
Dunsparce I want. Farfetch'd was going to have an evolution in that Gold Silver beta, and it still hasn't happened.
I know. It sucks.
I guess the only other thing that I would want to know regarding Sword and Shield is A, how long is it going to take for Pokemon Bank to be on the thing? Because I'm guessing like 6 months, because it took forever for Gen 7 to get its Pokemon Bank compatibility. And also, whether or not Pokemon Go or Let's Go will count. Like, will we get those games to be able to transfer Pokemon over? And if so, like, how complicated is the setup going to be for that?
I have a feeling Let's Go will be compatible, but not Go.
I would assume we'll get at least some loose compatibility, because Meltan's whole gimmick is that it's only obtainable in Go.
Yeah. So, and they're not going to make something unattainable. Although they could just make it like an event 10 years from now or something like that.
It could be like Manaphy, where they never do events for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see what our new Pokemon are going to be like, because I wasn't sure about the designs when I first saw them for our starters, but they've really grown on me. I did not see Sobble being the most popular.
I thought that Scorbunny was the most popular one.
Scorbunny's probably the least.
Yeah, there was a poll
really?
and Sobble won.
I'm surprised, because on my feed, I personally saw the most Scorbunny love, but it's been a while since they've been all equally popular. Like, Gen 6, nobody really liked Chespin. Gen 7, everybody was cuckoo for Rowlet, and the other two were kind of slept on, you know. It's gone back a while, and so having them all be relatively popular, I think, is a good sign for the way that the general dex is going to look in terms of new guys.
I think Sun and Moon had some great designs for Pokemon, so I'd love to see what other stuff they come up with this time around.
Oh, same, dude.
I'm a fan of the smaller bunches of new Pokemon, because I think ever since they started doing 70 or 80, we've had a lot more consistently good stuff.
Agreed. Yeah, it feels like let's take our best ones of all these ideas and make them something special.
That's how the franchise started, where there were going to be 200 Pokemon, or 190, sorry, in the original generation, and then they cut it down by 40 to only include their favorites.
I'd say that's a good idea, and they can just keep workshopping the ones that didn't quite make the cut and go from there. So, yeah, I don't know. For now, Score Bunny is my favorite. I just like that little guy's design, little cockiness to him. But what about you guys? We'll have to see how the evolutions go, of course, but for now.
I've been burned by evolutions before because Gen 6, I was really liking Chespin, because I actually did like Chespin from what I saw, but his evolutions are just
awful.
Yeah.
I love the episode of the XY anime where they see Aquilidin for the first time, and Bonnie just goes, Chespin evolves into that? Like, they knew.
Yeah, oh, they totally knew. There's a reason Chespin never evolved.
Apparently, I'm riding the crowd with this one, but Sobble is just adorable to me. I mean, granted, I almost always pick the water starter. I think, like, the only one I generally don't is Gen 2, because Cyndaquil's my fave, but almost always I pick the water starter, and Sobble is just, he's so precious, I want to protect him.
I pick the water starter very often, but I'm going to round us out and say that the one that spoke to me the most was Grookey.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yay! I like it when things like this work out.
I thought he looked funny and charming and a little bit doofy, but in a good way, and I like the fact that he's mischievous and kind of a prankster in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's potential there, and you know, Score Bunny is sort of the sports guy. It seems like Grookey, which I didn't realize at the time. All of his other names in other languages reference music, so it looks like his name is a portmanteau of groove and monkey. So you might have a music-based grass starter.
Well, it would make sense for that stick to evolve into like some kind of drum sort of motif.
He does like bang on a rock to scare off Sobble in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. I thought he was using that to grow the grass back, but we could be wrong.
Well, he could be doing that too.
Yeah. Sobble's probably just very scared of everything, so...
You know, he might evolve to be, like, terrifying, though, in kind of a Magikarp Gyarados sort of way.
Man.
Like, which
be careful who you pick on in high school type thing.
Basically, yeah.
I think there's a lot of potential with these starters. Not sure how long it's going to be until we get more new information. I'm going to guess probably April.
I think for E3 we'll probably get a showcase of the games. I don't know. I just hope they don't overshare like they did for Sun and Moon by the end.
I get tired of how they market stuff where usually what they do is they announce it. This has been a problem like since the Wii U 3DS era. It's gotten better recently though, but for a long time it was always they would announce a game and tell us nothing, and everyone would be like, okay, are we supposed to be excited about this? And then we'd hear nothing for months and months and months, and then suddenly we would get a second trailer, and the second trailer would look really cool, and people would start getting excited for it, and then we would hear nothing for a while, and then they would announce every single thing in the entire game a week before it comes out.
Yeah, that was my biggest issue with Sun and Moon, is that they revealed basically everything. Like, the biggest offender to me was the Red and Blue reveal for the rematches. Like, imagine how cool that would have been if that was a surprise. But they kind of just, it's like we have to show off everything, so I hope they do keep some things secret for this one.
Mm-hmm. That'd be nice. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I'm expecting quite a few new Pokemon as we go along, especially from Korokoro. That usually happens. So that's usually we get a Korokoro thing, so get a little idea of what might be coming, and then they put out a new trailer. Just remembering what it was like for Sun and Moon. So I'm kind of expecting the same thing this time around.
Yeah, I'd be good with them revealing a good amount of the new Pokemon. I just don't want too many story details or other things like that revealed, like the Ultra. Well, I mean, I suppose for the Ultra Space, they kind of needed to show that off for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, so you knew what was different. Mm-hmm. But they revealed too much for Vanilla Sun and Vanilla Moon, so I really hope that they don't overshare too much. You know, I'm fine with seeing a good amount of the new Pokemon, but keep the actual game details to as much of a minimum as possible. Or, like, I mean, maybe not a complete minimum so that we actually know why to be excited, but you know what I mean. Find a happy balance.
That time where they spoiled the entire Delta episode story before Auros had even come out.
Right. And that was a really cool story. Well, we'll see what happens. But any other final thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield before we end this off?
People who want every region in one game are kidding themselves.
Yeah. I don't even know if we'll get Kalos. I'm hoping Ireland. Ireland will be our, battle frontier.
At best, I'm hoping we'll see the train station that connects to Koroway Town.
Yeah, there you go.
In Gen 2, we could go back to Kanto, which means that for Gen 8, we have to go back to 7 regions, and that wouldn't get tiring at all. It'd be great. We should do it.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But for now, I think that covers it for our Pokemon Sword and Shield discussion. So thank you for watching. And if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And Chugga, where can they find you at?
My name is Chuggaaconroy on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm currently making videos on The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass. I'm not here to throw insults at John, though.
Are you sure? I think you're insulting him just by playing that.
Yeah, he's always all like, oh, the Zelda series needed to be saved from Phantom Hourglass being the worst thing ever. That's not even remotely his voice.
It's hard to emulate his deep, manly voice. What about you, Ted?
I also go by X and Shadow. I do some Twitch streams every now and again, and I'm also a member of Brain Scratch Commentaries, where we very badly talk about all sorts of different video games, many Nintendo, and we have done Pokemon in the past, so if you want to see our terrible Pokemon opinions, you should go check that out, because they're awful.
Way to talk yourself up.
I loved your guys' Sonic Adventure Let's Play.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad someone...
And, of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Pokemon and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.